Hey guys, it's Brian. Welcome to Financial Fitness. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. In this video, I'm going to talk about changing your mindset around saving and spending and how they can increase your savings to help you reach your financial goals faster. Let's get right into it. I've been thinking about how people save and spend, and part of it becomes a habit where certain consumptions are automatic. Keep this phrase in mind. It's harder to change a habit than a mindset. Habits are hard to change, but when I think a bit further, if you can change your mindset around consuming, saving, and spending, it can be extremely impactful when thinking about achieving your financial goals and to develop money-saving habits. Be creative with different ways to save money. You may not necessarily see the results right away, but effectively using multiple money-saving habits over time can result in almost a compound interest type of effect. You should see your savings increase within 4 to 6 months just by changing your mindset behind spending and shifting it towards saving. With that being said, let's jump into some of the ways to change your mindset into money-saving habits. Tangible versus intangible assets. This is a difficult category to explain because while I'm talking about shifting your mindset towards saving more money, this one shifts a little bit more on spending too. First, I have to explain the difference between tangible and intangible assets. Intangible assets are non-physical assets, meaning they are not something that you can touch. Examples of this would be any subscription service like Spotify, or things like patents, trademarks, and copyrights. These assets only have a transactional exchange value, so they are only worth something when exchanged for money. By themselves, they are not worth anything when not being exchanged for value. Tangible assets are physical assets that have a monetary value. Examples of tangible assets are physical items like electronics, land, and watches. Though assets like electronics depreciate in value, along with cars, except classic cars. Some electronics depreciate in value faster than others, such as smartphones and laptops, which get the most heavily used typically. Smartphones will lose up to half their value in the first year, so keep that in mind when you purchase and before you sell or trade in your smartphone for your next one. Basically, you have to balance between paying for too many intangible assets over tangible, just because you can't sell intangible ones or exchange them for money in a meaningful way typically. So for instance, you cannot sell your Spotify subscription because no one would pay you for it when they could simply get their own, and it would be the exact same service that you cannot provide to them. A tangible asset is different because of it being physical and therefore can be sold for money. A great example of this is an automatic or wind-up watch, which can be worn. So you might be saying, well, that sounds unnecessary and expensive, and both can be true. But the mindset shift here is these types of watches rarely lose value unless they are damaged and usually are produced in limited quantities, making many of them unique and essentially are collectibles. The point is not about buying expensive watches. It's about if you have to spend money, at least focus on assets that do not lose much value over time, can still be used now, and can be sold in the future if needed. I feel that buying items that can be used regularly and still have some type of utility while still holding a decent value is a great way to think about purchases in general, and is one of the most difficult to shift your mindset towards. When buying various types of collectibles, normally you can't use them and they must be stored properly, like with trading cards. But there are some that can still be used daily, like watches. Cars and electronics are the most common examples of tangible assets, but you can't sell them for what you paid for them, but both can usually be sold for something. Monthly subscriptions. If you've seen some of my other videos, this shouldn't be new, but I'm not a fan of monthly subscriptions. Everyone has at least a few that are not bills like utilities and cell phone bills, although both of those should be looked at to see where you can save. But what I really mean is things like Spotify, gym memberships, Netflix, Hulu, Scentbird, Dollar Shave Club, Rent the Runway, Trunk Club, Stitch Fix, and the Mr. and Mrs. collection. From what I listed, you should probably only be paying for about 2 or at a maximum of 3 of these types of subscriptions. List out all of your monthly subscriptions and see what can be dropped immediately or if there is any overlap. Yes, Hulu and Netflix count as overlap. Think about how many hours per month you use each one. You'll quickly realize how much you spend per month on a revolving basis compared to how much you actually use them that you can evaluate and immediately trim for some quick savings. In my opinion, all the clothing related subscriptions I mentioned shouldn't even exist as a service. I find it fascinating that people would pay to rent clothes. It's downright ridiculous and a pain to constantly keep track of the clothes that need to be returned versus the ones that you actually own, and also to be receiving new clothes once you return some as part of the subscription. Just why would you do that to yourself? It's another monthly payment for something that you don't need when you can just buy all of your clothes outright. Something like Scentbird, I think their business is really interesting, and you would be able to try different fragrances for $15 a month. They can't trick me with this rounding it down to $14.95 per month, but this should be a short-term subscription, like 1 to 3 months max. Just use it until you find a fragrance or cologne you want to buy and stop your subscription so you aren't paying every month. Before you start this type of subscription, create a small list to know which ones you want to try out while using the subscription. And with gym memberships, there are only 3 types of gym members: ones that go regularly, ones that go and then eventually stop going, the New Year's resolution folks, and ones that never start a membership in the first place. Whichever type you fall into, use the payment as part of holding yourself accountable, or just cancel the membership and be realistic if you aren't going to use the gym. Even things like reusing tea bags can help save a decent amount of money over a long period of time. Many tea bags can be used or steeped at least 2 to 3 times before the flavor dissipates. Typically, darker tea bags are 2 to 3 times, and lighter teas can be up to 3 to 4 times from my experience. Obviously, this also depends on how light or dark you enjoy your tea, but over the long run, you are cutting the cost in half by doubling the usage of your tea bags or more. Another way to save is when you're traveling and staying at hotels. Think hotel shampoo, body wash, hand lotion, and soap bars. Hotels always give you these for free upon check-in, and especially if you stay there for several days for a work trip or a vacation, you should typically get at least a couple extra soap bars or body washes. The hotel will throw these away when you check out anyway, so you might as well take them with you and save a few bucks for yourself along the way. It doesn't sound like this all adds up to much, which it doesn't on its own, but if combined with the other techniques and shifts in mindset behind the way you consume, spend, and save, it will add up to a substantial savings sooner than you think. Upgrading your electronics is something you might find yourself spending more than you realized. Not buying a new phone every year or every other year and waiting a bit longer to extend your upgrade cycle is something that you should consider. It's been shown by even Apple that people are upgrading their phones less frequently and keeping their phones for 2 to 4 years, so this is generally underway anyway. It's more cost efficient to replace the screen if it's cracked and the battery if it's not really holding a charge for very long anymore. Back in 2015 or so, battery covers used to come off, and you could easily swap in or out fully charged batteries like I used to do on my Galaxy Note 3. Keep in mind, battery replacements now may void any warranties these days because you have to take apart the entire phone to replace them. They more than likely will lose any waterproofing and dust resistance as it may have once had with any IP67 or IP68 rating. If you think about how often you buy or replace your technology, take another look at your expenses to make sure you're using your phones and tablets for at least 2 years each. From my experience, computers can be used quite a bit longer than 2 years if taken care of fairly well. I've been able to use most of my laptops for about 5 or 6 years before it either gets kind of slow or the battery starts to not hold much of a charge anymore. Desktops can extend even to a decade in many cases, especially if you do some part upgrades over time or buy some pretty great specs to start with. Tablets and phones are dropped more frequently, so durability can become an issue since they likely travel with you and therefore are subject to more wear and tear. In this day and age of automation and instant gratification comes same day or next day shipping. Amazon will probably come out with Prime yesterday shipping soon, to ship things even before you order them. You should not take advantage of stuff like this because there generally is an option for free shipping most of the time when you order things online from anywhere. Unless the item is large and heavy, like maybe a big TV or desktop computer or home appliance, there likely won't be a shipping cost. Bottom line is never pay for shipping or instant gratification. Always go with free shipping if it's available. If you're paying for shipping on an item that isn't heavy, you're doing it wrong and planning poorly. Predict and plan ahead that you may need something to avoid paying for same day or next day shipping. Using some examples like a toothbrush, a computer mouse, and headphones, most things can wait. Your mouse probably still works even if you can't click quite as well, and headphones you can live without for several days or weeks until they're delivered. Even if you work with music professionally, you probably have multiple sets of headphones anyway. If a toothbrush needs to be replaced, you can wait until the new one arrives before throwing it out, unless you lose a toothbrush, though not sure how you do that really, since they're stationary unless you travel a lot and leave it somewhere. With proper planning, there is no reason you can't accept whatever the slowest free shipping speed is from wherever you are ordering from. Also keep in mind you can save on shipping costs by also just buying less things. Of the examples I just went over, these 5 shifts in your mindset will help you change your habits over time. Buy items that have a resale value in the future that don't depreciate, eliminating expenses. Think outside the box for new ways to save and consume within your lifestyle. Extending the life cycle or usage of things like tea bags and electronics. Don't look for instant gratification like same-day shipping, and plan ahead. I hope you can relate to these mindset shifts and think about how they can impact your lifestyle. Bottom line, when you take a look at your overall expenses, try and see if you're making the best use of what you already own and use and how you've been spending. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you liked this video and found it insightful. Click the like button if you did, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the notification bell so you can see when I post videos next. Feel free to leave comments, questions, and any topics you might want to hear about in future videos to get on track to being financially fit. See you in the next video.